Okay, so thank you everyone for coming here today, for those watching live on our various different platforms, as well as for those present here today. And thank you so much for Michael for being here and giving your time. So let me introduce you a bit about Michael Kokal. So he's a full-time attorney by profession, and he's actually also at the sidelines, the End of the Road podcast holder. And he is the first person who ever introduced me and interviewed me on a podcast. And I'm forever grateful for that, because from there, I moved on way more to various other podcasts, and I always keep in touch with you. I'm forever grateful for that. He's also a co-facilitator of a healing program. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the man I call the man with two lives. He's a doting father of two daughters. He's the quirkiest man and one of the funniest individuals I've ever met. So without further ado, take it on, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Fatima. Thank you very much for those kind words. When Fatima asked me to do this, I was thinking about, what I would talk about. And it's really, that's the whole point, that I don't want to talk about anything. I want to sort of touch something or point to something that is not about words or stories or sort of, the day-to-day life, but touch something deeper. And I don't want to give that a word either. I don't want to label that with something, because that's just going to evoke something else in me. But I just want to sort of have the raw experience of something new. And if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is sort of share how I sort of my daily practice of sort of touching into this. But this is just for me. And I think it's important to sort of discover sort of your own pathway to get this, because see, what I think is really going on is the universe, or whatever you want to call it, is always sort of pointing the way for you, for me, for everyone. And sort of our role is just to sort of feel into it, because I think it is a more of a felt sensation, or it's not so much a thought. And in that way, if you want to think of it as sort of finding the portal, the gateway in every moment, because I think in every moment there is a little entryway for us. But I think I've said too much. So that's sort of what I'm sort of pointing at, to find sort of this entryway in every moment. But now I think I'll start off with sort of my practice. And this is sort of a hybridized version of it. But I usually start off by looking at my hand in front of me. And I focus on the middle finger. And this is a very important entry point for me, because it shows me that, like, what I give attention to, what I focus on, I mean, that's everything. It's everything in your life. This is a microcosm of what's going on in your life, because what you give attention to and what you focus on, in a lot of ways, is your life in very fundamental ways. So let's just, if we could, just kind of bring your attention and focus on the middle finger. And you'll see that once you start to give attention to that finger, and it could be, I'm looking at the middle part of the finger, but the whole finger will sort of have a new sort of energy to it. And you can feel sort of go into the whole middle finger, the whole space of the middle finger. And in that space is sort of a new energy. And what I'm asking you to do is when you have a thought, just sort of bring it into that space of the middle finger. And now we'll go to the finger to the right of that, the ring finger. And we'll do the same thing. We'll imbue that with our focus and energy. And again, we're feeling into the whole space of that finger, the whole volume, if you want to think of it as a volume. And now let's go to our pinky finger, our small finger. Moving over to our pointer finger, our index finger. And if your hand is sort of like mine now, you can feel sort of your whole palm coming alive. And move your attention onto your thumb. And now the whole front of your hand. You could feel the volume of the whole front of the hand. And then move your attention to the back of your hand. Now your whole hand. Put your hand right above your head if you're able to. Now we're going to bring our attention into our head, our entire head, the space between our ears, the space between our ears and our jaw and the top of the head. Feel that entire space, the volume of that space. And I'm bringing my hand down now. So the space between your ears. Move your attention down to your throat area now. And really feel what's going on in the space in the throat. And you can still feel the head too, joined perhaps. But it might be different for you, but the important is just to sort of actually see what's going on there. You might see a light in your head coming in. You might hear sounds more clearly. And bring your attention now down to the space of your chest, your heart. And oftentimes when I bring my attention down in this area, I'll notice that I'm going someplace else. There'll be another visual image opening up for me of someplace else. And this is what I mean by that, to find sort of the portal and the gateway. Because by the time you're down in your heart, there'll be another area calling out to you, perhaps. It might be another visual image calling out to you. And you can go there. You can go there just mindful of where you are, but actually follow that image along, because that could be the gateway for you to where the universe is wanting you to put your attention. Now, if you can put your attention, bring your attention down to your stomach, your midsection by your belly button. And feel the space of your midsection on both sides, front and back. And you can feel the midsection joined to your heart, joined to your throat, and joined to your head, the space of your whole body. And now if you're sitting down, just feel the space of your sit bones, your tailbone, and the space of your hips. And now if you're sitting down, the space of your right leg, moving down from the hips to the ground and your feet. The entire space of your leg, the volume of your leg, your right leg. And now the volume, the entire volume of your left leg. And now your entire body filled with space, the volume of your body, from the top of your head to your feet. And I'm noticing that the energy on the right side of my body is a little bit different than the left side of the body. So I'm bringing my attention into just the left side of the body, my attention into the left side of the body. And again, you might be called or drawn some other place, and that's perfectly okay, because this is your journey. This is your gateway to find where you're being called. And now my attention was in the left side of my body. I'm bringing it back to the right side of the body so I can balance it. The attention's now on the right side of my body. And now I'm bringing my attention outside of my body and I'm moving it to the space in front of me, wherever that is. So the space between me and whatever wall is in front of me. The volume of space in the room I'm in front of me. And now we're going to feel the volume of space in the room we're in behind us. And you might still be in the room or you might be somewhere else. It's all fine. And if you're in somewhere else, some other room, just stay there. It could be a memory, it could be something that's not even yours. Because when we get into this sort of, when we touch upon this way of it's not thinking, it's not consciousness. When we touch upon this way, this experience, I think we touch something universal that might not even be ours, what we're experiencing, just like a dream that's not ours. Now imagine the space above us, the space above your head, the volume of the space above your head to the ceiling, wherever you're at. Or if you're already above the ceiling, just the space above you, above your building, into the sky. Going up. And now we're bringing our attention down, filling the space, the volume of the area beneath us, going down into the ground. And it might be the space of the room you're in, or you might have already gone beyond that. You might be in the horizon, you might be in the ocean, expanding out. Wherever you're at is fine. Now I want you to feel the space, the volume of space in all the directions at once, in front of you, behind you, to the right of you, to the left of you, above you, and beneath you. And my attention just went to my heart area again, but it might have been someplace else for you. Again, it's all fine. Wherever it is a perfectly placed, acceptable place to be. But just kind of stay in that place wherever you ended up after you opened up that way. And like I said, for mine, it's in my heart. So I'm just gonna go into the heart space again and stay there. And if I have a thought, just bring it down to the heart. Another way of looking at this, you can imagine that like you're thinking where the thoughts are coming from is not from the area of what used to be the head, but the thoughts are coming from the heart. It's almost like you've got nostrils down in your chest sticking out and you're actually breathing through the heart. It's another way of experiencing breathing through the heart. And since I'm down in my heart, I don't know if that's the reason, but what's coming up for me is to now do a loving kindness practice. And I see, my eyes are closed, but I see Fatima on the Zoom screen. And I'm wishing her peace. May she find peace, may she find love. May she find joy, and expressing my gratitude for her putting this on and spreading this out to the universe. Something else just came up for me, sort of a darkness and energy that's a little bit uncomfortable. And so maybe I should speak a little bit about that. That the darkness, there's no judgment here. This is just a different sort of energy that is now coming in. and find out what it wants, what this wants. Does it have something to say, or does it just want to be felt? And you'll notice sometimes, at least for me, that this darkness is another pathway, almost the greater gateway into something, because it's almost like that's the passes that you need to go through for the precursor to sort of reframe something in your life, or to get in touch with something in your life that perhaps you were missing or ignoring. But that is the gateway for that. If you can feel into that. And again, I hate to use the word darkness because it's just a different form of energy. It's not darkness has like a value, or we tend to like push away from that. And it's not. I mean, the darkness is in so many ways our truest friend, because that is the pathway to the growth almost. And I think that when we get down into this, that we realize that we are just sort of this eternal becoming. There's just the eternal gateways opening up, the eternal portals opening up constantly. And when we go through our normal day-to-day life, we don't see that. They're kind of all fused into one stream that we don't pay attention. But if it can be felt into, you can actually see the transitions, the gateways coming and going, and the eternal process of becoming. And I would like to talk about something else now. The sometimes you can sort of get what your experience is just you sort of get lost in sort of thoughts, what I'm calling thought sensations. And what's really interesting, and especially at night, is it's almost like you can be called to a certain, and by called meaning like you just feel a body part that is being more sensitive, that's calling out. For example, mine right now, I'm feeling it in the back of my head, like in the back of my skull, where the spinal cord meets the brain, in there. And this is something that I do kind of at night to help sleep. Is just to focus or be aware of that area, and imagine that there is a blue colored gem, a dark purple, bluish colored gem there of whatever shape. And just imagine that in the base of your skull, and feel like when the thoughts are coming up, if they are coming up for you, or the images are coming up, or the sounds are coming up, or anything is coming up, just bring it into that gemstone, and just keep bringing it into the gemstone. When the thoughts arise, go to the gemstone. And it's not so much pushing thoughts away, because sort of you want to welcome the thoughts that are coming in. You don't want to resist them at all, but see if they'll go into that gemstone. Just kind of direct them there. And in a way, if you remember when we started off experiencing our finger, this is like experiencing that space in the back of our skull, that if you want to have a gemstone there, is there. And again, when you experience that space, when you bring your attention to it, you energize it. So you might feel that this area in the back of your skull is getting more energized right now. But your body, you might be someplace else right now, putting attention to someplace else, and that's all well and good as well too. So that's one anchor point where there's an area of your body calling for attention and to sort of slow things down and ground you. And another way of grounding you is I can feel the base of my spine, my tailbone, and you can imagine a different sort of crystal there. Black tourmaline, for example, something black and grounding made of earth in a little shape down there. And you can bring your attention down there. And this is also a good practice of slowing the mind down if you've had a busy day or you're in the middle of the night and having a difficult time sleeping. Imagine that black stone at the base of your spine, the tailbone, and you can feel that stone connecting with the earth. And you're not limited to one area of attention. You might find that, for example, it's sometimes useful. And again, this is all a customized practice for you. You've got to feel exactly what's arising for you. I can feel the tailbone and the stone in the tailbone and the stone in the back of my neck at the same time in the space. And you can bring your attention to both of them simultaneously. And my eyes are going to be opening now. And I don't know if anybody would like to talk about what, if anything, happened for them during this little experience. But if anybody would like to share their experience, I would be honored to sort of hear what other people are getting out of this little journey. If not, I'm just going to keep talking.
Okay, Michael, let me start first. People will be shy. Yeah. So the experience I felt by the end of it was that I was very much aware of surroundings, like I'm here, but I'm also in the space of doing this meditation. But just like you, I felt that heaviness at the back of my head at the end of it, and probably at the back in my back area, not in my bones or anything, but just in my back. And that was my experience of it.
Yeah. Did you go anyplace else?
Yeah. So I looked at my heart. It looked good. And I also saw the sky when it was at the top of the head. But when you asked to ground back, I was grounded here on solid ground, but I also saw earth.
Yeah. What do you know, I'd be curious to hear what, your thoughts about that, because I think that in some ways that when we sort of let down the barriers, and there are a number of practices to sort of get out of our sort of
Yeah.
daily routine, or what do you call it? Your neuroscientists call it beta ways or something, when we go out of
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Alpha and beta waves. Yeah.
that we sort of are more than, or we sort of communicate in different ways with each other, that we don't normally experience, or we and what I was saying, especially like in dreams, it's almost like sometimes they're just not your dreams, that they're not my dreams, they're sort of more
Yeah.
expansive dreams. And I think that you can even touch on that even when you're awake in your waking life by doing
You can.
practices like this too. And you kind of like, it's just like one portal after another. And what we are is, what the we part of it is kind
It's
of
like you're
but
shifting between dimensions. And to me, it's like if you're sleeping and if you pass the theta wave that usually initiates the sleep, where you're already like slightly dozing off before you go into dream sleep and start dreaming. So if it's not yours and you tend to experience, then it's so when you sleep and you dream of something, like you said, that is related, but it's not to you, but it's not related. So that's something in another dimension because you're at a different wave enough, conscious enough to experience through simple practices. Yeah. But when you are able to see that and carry it outside, at least at a partial effect of partially of what you remember when you wake up from that dream. It's a bit difficult to remember what you do when it's that kind of dream. But if you're able to see something in a realistic form that happens to you that reflects a part of your life, then you are very much conscious at that level, in the sense that you're mindful in your everyday life through your practices, that you're able to relate back and you'll be like, hey, wasn't this what happened from that dream that I remembered when I woke up, but didn't seem to affect me at that point? So there's a partial reflection there. So there's communication going on the other side, and there is real life here that you also feel through energy. And that's what I know thus far from all my experiences.
yeah. And it's almost like when we stop, if we can set aside sort of our preconditioning to how we are thought of the world. I mean, we think of ourselves as like separate beings, unfolding linearly in time through age,
Yeah.
like birth and death, and all these are so ingrained in us. But every now and then you can sort of peel that apart and open up to something that like is a way of experiencing that's not that's not that. And it's almost like
Yeah.
we don't have words for it, or it's ways of experiencing something that is so beyond words, the words that we've been conditioned with, that but yet it's so vital, because when this sort of happens, you're like, I mean, it's almost like a jolt. and
Yeah.
and I think that's like, I think of like if we're all like little seeds underground, and then when we get glimpses of this, it's like we sprout a little bit above the soil and into the sunlight, and there's no way that we could have any precursors to that,
Yeah.
or any understanding, because it literally blows our mind, that there's no sort of, well, I should let you speak, the neuro, there's no sort of structures in our mind to understand it, or and sense that what we are is sort of understanding machines. We're always trying to understand something that when that breaks down and there's, the crack that lets the light in, so to speak, that's
Yeah.
where the magic happens.
Yeah. So this is where I say we kind of partially had this conversation on the podcast, right? And I say this is the unexplainable part. That's why this part is when you set your intention and let the universe in, and you say let it in and let it be. So of course when it happens, you as a human, you will get that, but you'll be like, how did that happen? What just happened, or what is going on? But then you have to dissociate from questioning why did this. Rationally you can think, but you got to just accept, because reality is when you give to the universe that energy and whatever experience you're having that you're flabbergasted as a human, you literally go down to say that, okay, this is something that is not of any power in this world. And you just let it go and enjoy the experience. Then you live your day-to-day life. So if you speak from a neuroscience perspective, nobody has ever been able to go deeper than the wires to connect the brain and the basics that they keep trying to prove. But evidence can go on, they can keep trying, but they cannot get the part that is going to provide evidence for what people see that is not seen except individualistically by themselves. They're still trying to work on that, but basic stuff that they try to work on, experiences through meditation, your happiness, your joy, it triggers centers in the brain. But what you experience through your thoughts, they can't show that and show evidence for it till today. So that's
Yeah.
the only difference. And I don't believe they ever will, because it's not meant to be. It's just as such. They can keep trying. They can do their best. But this is the part that they probably are never permitted access into. But they're given the basics sufficient enough to treat any sort of disorders that we face, help people move on, help people recover, help brain centers also. So that's why they study all of this. So there are very minute few that try to go on further. The rest have given up just to help people in the real realm, just solve normal day-to-day psychological, to just help them and limit more of drugs, but permit more of normal therapy. So more of, let's say, rather than having Prozac all the time, or having, in Asia we call it a Panadol or some sort of medication, it's a way that they want to limit that, but give more meditative guidance, give more treatments. So that's the whole purpose that's done this far in the scientific world.
Yeah. And then that comes the point of, or the question of what our role in it is. That if we are these endless series of portals opening up and experience, given that we're in that sort of situation, what is our what is our role in that? And there's so many, the one thing that I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about this, but it's almost like we have a role in what we experience, and it's almost like this focusing thing, this concentration thing on the finger, to start things off, to sort of, that in a way is sort of our role in the creative process, although that maybe is not the right word. But what we put our attention on, what we put our focus on, is in so many ways everything, and how we frame it is also important. And I don't, it's almost like that's I'm putting words in it that there, but the limiting belief that you have, say that there's a limiting belief that's coming in, and you can almost feel that, or sometimes I feel that is just like it's just almost like a pain in the body. There's kind of like your body recoils from a limiting belief that, there's something wrong. There's this sense of a miss. And that to me is the essential nature of what this practice is, because we're confronted with something in our things in our day-to-day life, all sorts of things that make us uncomfortable and that we are recoiling from. Because I think that when everything is, we're being drawn to connection. I mean, that's the other thing, that I think that what we're feeling when we're feeling this discomfort is disconnection from something. And yet this eternal process of becoming is to be feeling back into this sort of connection. I think we're always being led back to connection, perhaps. And that's the part that's really interesting, especially at night, because at night is when a lot of this, you're in this sort of different liminal awareness, and a lot of times it's the nighttime consciousness for me is so much different than the daytime consciousness, that I don't really, it's almost like I don't have the tools yet to sort of integrate them. But the part, what you were saying, that you get sort of insights from your dreams and are able to carry them on the real world, I think is powerful too. But it's almost like that we can foster this sense of trust that, like, this is all heading in the right direction for us, almost, what I was talking about, that's important to put our attention on. What we put our attention and focus in is it. And if our attention is on, the limited beliefs that this is always bad, this is always happening, something, then that is where sort of there's going to be gateways opening in those directions that are different in the gateways that might be able to open on a relationship that's where you're feeling trust in that, like, this is all working out for the best for me, or the universe has, is trying to show me something. Or, like, and I think we talked on the podcast, like the Upanishads, that seeing the other as another is fear. And there's only, like, fear and connection. It's not like good and evil, light and dark. It's just like fear and connection, or separation and connection, are what's going on. And maybe for me, that's a different way of looking at things that doesn't put sort of a emotion or a value judgment or baggage on it, that is not helpful.
Right. So I agree with what you say, but I always say, what is that the connection needs to happen when it's happening. So much of the time that it's more alert at night is because most of the time are in our homes, in our space. Most of the day, we're doing a lot of things. Sometimes we go out, we deal with the real world. So when you have that time and space and eventually dream, what I feel happens is the universe is always communicating, even the real world. So if you're conscious and mindful enough in the real world, you'll see communication, every signboard, everything. It just happens. Things just happen. But when you commit time, you're actually at night in your dreams, whatever, you're actually conversing with another realm. And what happens is when you come into the real world, and if you can practice just being what the duty has been given to you, to be conscious, to be mindful, to carry messages forward, to do what we do, just like both of us, and still live our lives, but still continue to practice whatever we need to do to keep ourselves at a state of balance so the communication doesn't end. And this is for everyone, that communication needs to be brought down on earth, because at the end of the day we are still beings on this earth at this point, but that doesn't limit our communication to universal power. And to be open to it means you're receiving something already. So it's not to question what's that point or that purpose, but inspect, accept it, and then go forth and say, I trust this process and I'm going to live my everyday in pure logic, pure consciousness, and still hold this belief in my heart and still continue to do what you need to do to sustain yourself before you come home and do your things again. So that's how I see it, because the universe never stops communicating. If you observe everything in the real world, it shows you stuff. It's just, and it shows everybody that. It's just how many people are mindful as they walk down the street. How many people are mindful that birds chirp? How many people are mindful that signboards say something when they ask the universe for a sign? So there's a lot of things happening. There are a lot of people who waited for buses. If they say, oh, okay, I really need to be here, universe, I know you can do this. It will be there, and everything happens to you according to perfect divine timing in the real world, as long as the communication keeps going. It never stops. But your timing in another realm happens when you actually sit down, go in your space, enjoy your time at night, or you're in your room and you dream. That's you and the universe communicating in another realm. So yeah, that's what I believe. And I think a lot of people I have spoken to on various other platforms have also said, at the end of the day, you travel everywhere, but you got to come back to this world, be mindful of everything you've experienced, and still walk on solid ground, carrying out the work that the universe is trying to drive for everybody else to experience. It's like everyone has a mission, their own purpose and their own mission. They have to find it. It'll be revealed. Yeah, that's what I believe. It'll be revealed. It's never the question when or why. Because eventually, as you live your normal life, it'll just all fall into place and you'll know what to do when.
What role does, we talked, or I was talking before about trust, but the other sort of focus or concentration is on, for me, is like gratitude in a way, because I think that opens up different portals than others too. And that's something that just is a very recent development, and I think that a lot of sort of traditional religious practices have that in them, but for some reason I just have been, it's one thing to think gratitude, and it's another thing to actually experience it. And that's the, where the scriptures come alive. And that's what I think we're trying to, this whole process, the whole today, is for things to come alive, to bring the magic in it that gets lost. But yeah, so many different practices.
Yeah, so what you say is true, definitely. But for me, at the end of the day, I always say the two most important things in life is sincerity. Even through the universe, it's gratitude and love throughout the day, in everything. Before I sleep, before I wake, everyone should practice it. And love goes throughout the day. You just do that with every simple thing that happens in your life. And trust me, it will all just fall into place accordingly. So gratitude and love is one of the things that's always practiced at every moment of every day. So just simple practices. I always say everyone can practice I love you to the people that they live with. Start with that, or their family members. Just start from there and then practice love. Once you're further and you have broken the inner self of yours, practice love with everybody else. Practice gratitude when you sleep, when you wake up through the day. It just doesn't become a practice anymore. It just becomes a way of life.
So what sort of mischief are you up to in the future now? I mean, where's this all leading you? Where's the universe pointing you at?
Let's just say I don't question, but I know it's pointing me in a good direction. I just live what I need to do in the real world. And I also continue my practices and I just live one day at a time.
Yeah.
What about you? We all want to hear your take. What do you practice? Everybody on live stream, on Zoom, want to know. How do you practice what you do in real life?
I think more and more it's almost like not such that almost not reacting to anything that goes on in the quote unquote real world until I can bring it into a space that is quiet. And when we were doing the meditation earlier, that space often for me is like right at the back of my neck or in my heart. And there's so many things that sort of we're called to like immediately react to and that don't really need a reaction from us. I mean, so much of what goes on does not need a response. And if it does require for a response, a nonverbal response, a lot of times is more important than a verbal response. So, and it's almost like we think that our actions and our choices matter so much, but there's sort of this undercurrent going through our life, this deeper stream that if we don't necessarily react to it, it sort of unfolds anyway. And I know that sort of goes against a lot of, that we have to be, having all these plans for, we need to do this or do that to get what we want. And a lot of times what kind of falls into our lap is the most important anyway, or the stuff that's really not planned or foreseen. And that kind of goes back to the whole, what we were talking about in meditation, that of going through the portals and just sort of, there's a role in it for us, but there isn't a role in it for us. I mean, it's what the role is. I mean, this is to me the great mystery. It's like, yeah, we're here to do shit, but in a way we're not, because we're in a way just to sort of, experience something too, and realize that it's not about us. It's not about our plans. It's not about our thoughts, but yet it is in a way. But and again, those are just more structures of thought and dealings with that ultimately it's not about us. And that is the biggest message, perhaps, that all our little petty plans and schemes and reactions,
that's very true.
It's not about us, but we have a role in the not about us too. And that's what the role is not defined. You can't put it into an algorithm. You can't, I will do this if this comes up, because something will come up just to short circuit that plan. And in a way, that's the whole idea. It's the universe is always trying to thwart to short circuit. You're thinking that you've got this or that figured out, because the not knowing is, I mean, the Zen say not knowing is most intimate. That's it. The not knowing,
You're
not
not
acting.
meant to know. Yeah, you
Exactly.
yeah.
But yet you have to, but not get, but at the same time, yes, you have to act. You have to
Yeah.
act. So once you get that figured out, there is nothing to figure out.
Yeah.
So let's go figure something out.
You tell me once you've figured it out where you're at and you
Then
find that
then
answer.
I've missed it. As soon as I open my mouth,
No,
I've
you
missed
wouldn't
it.
have. You
Yes.
let me know, I'm sure.
As soon as, here I'll tell you, but when I tell you I've got it figured out, then that's the time for you to run and hide, because it's not going to be anything interesting.
No, then we'll just have this conversation first and then we'll air it out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's gonna be good.
And this is like, I think there's something about what we're doing. I mean, there's like the human interactions are part of it too. I mean, part of this is, we're not,
individual.
yeah, but we are, but we're sort of not.
Yeah, but we need to interact as well. That's essential.
Right. But it's not. It isn't. I mean, I think that it is, but sort of. I sort of, when I was growing up, was sort of lost in that, in a way that you had to be interacting a lot. I mean, I had to. I felt that, like, if I wasn't interacting and I was alone, that something was, wrong. So I mean, there's other sides to that. I mean, there's, but there is a magic in communication. But yet, I guess what I want to say is, there's all kinds of conversations going in us as well, that we need to be cognizant of, as well as cognizance outside. And it's almost like that's the thing, that, like, the talking to you is another way of interacting with something that's, I mean, I don't necessarily, I think at some level we're all sort of part of the same cosmic goo, that, there isn't really a separation between us in the way that we think there is. So, but by interacting or being intimate with ourselves, we're really being intimate with others too. Or by ignoring certain aspects of ourselves, we're ignoring certain aspects of others. So it's all part of the same process, I think. I don't, I guess, I don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah, so how I look at that and what I say is, because when you practice it, you realize there's a distinction of who you interact with. They're very selected people. You don't need to have millions. Like, a lot of people have a lot of people, but your circle becomes closer, and you choose the important ones. Then you interact like normally with simple people, but you don't give too much time and stuff like that. So once that dissociation happens, it just works that way. But interaction is not interaction like social, and you have to have like 100 million, like that. So it's just that matter of what people that matter at that point of time. And as you progress forward, who falls out, who falls in, and just work along with it. And that's because that's what the universe is bringing for you as you change, because your character is changing to align you with the right people at the right time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though what you think is what you need might not be what you need. And that's the whole point.
Yeah. So that's the whole point. So at the end of the day, the problem with humans is we question too much. And that's when the thoughts encompass the mind, And then we spend too much time thinking and thinking and thinking. Like people in the real world, they come back home from work. Sometimes they can't go to sleep because they have work thoughts in their head. And then people who are trying to
That
fall
never happens
asleep
to me,
think,
by the way.
yeah. That's why I said there's the other half, people who are trying to fall asleep and they start thinking about, oh, the other world, like consciousness and what's happening and all these questions. That's when it's not meant to be questionable. We just go. That's why I say in some processes, we can't find the answer just yet. It happens as we process ourselves. At least that's what I think. But everyone is open to free will because there's no right and there's no wrong. Everyone has freedom of opinion.
Yes, yes. Mm.
Yeah. So if you have nothing much to say, we'll open up for questions in this group, as well as we'll check on our YouTube if there are any questions thus far. Okay, so does anyone in this group, Jeff, Julie, Diana, if you all have any questions, please feel free to on your mic and voice it out, or you can type it in the chat. Michael and us will look at it immediately. Julie, if you have anything, because Julie is my personal assistant for all the events that happen on consciousness and communication. Yeah. And
Julie's wonderful.
she's wonderful. She's wonderful to communicate with, and she's fast. I'll be like, okay, have we done this? She'll be like, all done, all set. So she keeps it going. Yeah. So if she has questions, then she will on her mic and camera and ask you. If not, Jeff and Diana, can we go ahead with y'all first? If you don't have any questions, you can also type in the chat. If you have any comments, please go ahead and type it in the chat or voice it out.
Hi, Michael. Thanks a lot, Fatima, for your interaction with Michael, and also lovely comments. And thank you very much, Michael, for this very wonderful session. I really, really like the first part where we talk about the meditation processes, because there's at one point in time where you ask us to put our hands above our head. What I actually feel is that I can sort of see like a portal, like you have energies coming from your hand and you are just lifting all the way up. And then once you ask us to ground ourselves down again, I can literally feel that my whole mind and body just comes all the way back down to this place. And it's really beautiful and it's a wonderful experience. And all the conversation between you and Fatima, really, it's beautiful, because a lot of people, and this is when I was interacting with people who's really going through their shadow works, trying to integrate their inner child and stuff like that. They really are looking into that kind of support that we discussed today, and also for the past few days. And I think the key point that Fatima and yourself actually highlights is sincerity, gratitude, and love really is the value to move ahead. And at the same time, don't take yourself too seriously, because really it's just a mere experience after all. But yeah, we play a role in it. So it's a wonderful session. I really love it so much. And yeah, thank you so much for being cooperative as well, during the whole process, joining us and collaborating with all these events with us. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Can I say something? I mean, Julie is just
Sure.
like, she's such a, I mean, you know, I know I'm like on the other side of the world with you, but she's like radiating energy, divine energy. I mean, do you feel that like she's just a light? She's so full of light and positive stuff. I mean, I mean,
She enjoys conversations that's been
yeah,
going
I could
on
look
like
at it. I
this.
mean,
So
yeah.
she's, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say the meditation that we are doing is a variant of called open focus meditation. And it was developed, I think, by scientists in NYU, New York University here in the States. There's a book, if you Google open focus meditation, that's the part where and you can go, there are all kinds of like guided meditations on it, but it's basically, and I know they hooked up EEGs to monitor this. But this whole idea where I said, you know, like you could go imagine the space in front of you and the space behind you and above you, and then imagine the volume of space in your head. That I think is called open focus meditation. There's a book on it that I read a couple years ago. And for me, it's really powerful because just as a way to sort of start off to help you sort of get in that, the more centered place. I mean, because I don't know what, you know, I'll defer to Fatima on this, but it's almost like the brain, for me, like if the some of those, the traditional Vipassana meditations where you follow your breath, or Shikantaza and Zen, this seemed to be more, at least to start off with, as a way to sort of get, you know, and I don't want to use the word centered, but it sort of dropped you into something quicker, I think, for me to do this than just following the breath. Although eventually, like I usually will start off doing the open focus and then I'll move into, you know, following the breath or just focusing on one point or something. So it's sort of like the gateway for me, maybe, this open focus stuff. And but yeah.
Okay, sounds good, because we will also include that in our post for tomorrow about you and the tips from your talk. The name of that book. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing that technique with us. And I'm sure, you know, there are people who really look for tips like this and resources like this. So we'll definitely post it on YouTube, or even Facebook or Instagram, and let more people know about it. Thank you so much.
Sure. And if you have the Insight Timer app, there are open focus meditations on that too. The Insight Timer app, until Fatima develops her own app for meditation.
That's fine.
And I don't know what role you're going to have in this, Julie, but
she'll promote it for me. That's what she always does. She's my marketing.
Oh, well, you know, my daughter, one of my daughters is doing ad PR, and she is so yeah, I mean, she's I need to get her to help me, but she's too busy doing other shit. She likes food, you know, she's into food PR. But anyway, but the Insight Timer has so many different types of I think it's pretty much free, and there are like hundreds of thousands of guided meditations. There's a timer on it I use too every day. I think it's pretty much free, unlike some of the others, perhaps. But I don't want. I mean, if there's another one that you like, but I think Insight Timer has just like hundreds of thousands of guided meditations, and you'll find, if you Google open focus, or if you search open focus meditation on that, you'll find other examples of what I was doing that are a little different. Yeah, I still think there's something about accessing other. I know that, like in traditional Buddhist practice, you probably don't want to go to the other places that you might necessarily go to in this. And I still think that I still think that it's helpful to sort of go to those places because
You
they're
have,
coming up for a reason. Yeah.
yeah, I always believe you have to solve the dark and whatever is coming up in order to be able to go forward. You can't just do just light, 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 light. Then you're denying the part that you have to deal with first. So you always start with that part first.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess for now, no one has anything to say. So Michael, do you have any last words to say before I end it?
No, this is the end of the road, and this is just something closing, and if you pay attention, something is opening up at the same time. Something to bring us back into connection and unity.
That's great. So, Michael, thank you so much for ending this 5-day event with your talk. And it was great to have you. It was a very interesting conversation. We will continue to keep in touch as usual. And
Yes.
please, if you have any further questions or anything, we will let you know later. So thank you, Michael, so much. And for everyone watching us, those present here, as well as those on the live stream. Oh, he says, just saying the meeting concludes at 11:11. Just said it. That's already a sign. So having said that, thank you everyone else watching on live stream on all our platforms, as well as those who will watch the recording later. We thank all of y'all for joining us throughout this entire course of the 5-day event. We will notify everyone else who got the free gifts. And personally, we wish to thank you, especially Michael. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone.
Everybody keep your energy down, except when you want to except when you want to bring it up. Except when you want to bring it up.
Yeah, you gotta keep it up.
Yeah, or bring it. Yeah. Just
yeah. Okay, so the recording is stopped.
Okay, we're done.
We're done with the meeting. If you have any questions, you can let me know, Michael. While
what time is it? What time is it where you're at?
11:12 p.m. So
11,
I ended it literally at 11:11 sharp.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
So
have a very good day.
Enjoy the portals tonight. Hopefully you'll go to all kinds of liminal spaces and interact with all kinds of other dimensions and carry back little tidbits.
Sure. And I expect the same from you too.
That's right. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm so grateful to you. All
Okay.
right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.